Hi, I'm Charlie Chapman, a developer advocate here at RevenueCat. And today I want to show you how you can create a web-based win-back campaign for your mobile apps using RevenueCat's web billing without needing to create or manage your own website. So first, let's talk about what is a win-back campaign. Essentially, it's some sort of mechanism for you to try to earn back the business of a churned customer. So if one of your users has canceled their subscription, you want to try to earn back their business. In our case, by sending them an email at the point that their subscription expires with a discount to one of your subscriptions. And web billing is RevenueCat's product for enabling purchases through the web instead of through the typical in-app purchases. Web billing integrates with RevenueCat's entire ecosystem, so you can make a purchase on the web, and that purchase will unlock features inside of your app. RevenueCat handles all of the management of this for you. Some of the benefits of making purchases on the web include easier attribution if you're trying to track effectiveness of your campaign, and it's easier to run a steeper discount because web purchases don't have the same store commission fees of 15 to 30% that you do whenever making an in-app purchase inside of your mobile app. So let's look at this diagram I made to show you exactly what it is that we're going to build in this tutorial. So the idea here is you already have a mobile app. In my case, it's going to be an iOS app, and it already has in-app purchases all set up. So we want to create a win-back campaign that works kind of like this. A user will start the subscription inside of the mobile app using the normal in-app purchase mechanism. At some point, that user will cancel their subscription, and once that subscription period ends, their subscription will expire. This is the point where we want our win-back campaign to kick in. So what we want to do is send that user specifically an email. And inside of that email, we'll have a link that offers them a discount of 50% or something kind of substantial to try and win them back to say, hey, maybe the reason that you canceled is it was too expensive. Why don't you give this a try? And specifically, we want to do this through the web. We don't want to send them directly through their mobile app. There's a couple of reasons for this, but I think one of the biggest ones is because this is being initiated through an email instead of being initiated inside of your app, you're allowed to do purchases not through the app. And so if you do it through the web, you can avoid the 15 or 30% fees that the Google Play Store or Apple's App Store give you. And so it makes it a little bit easier for you to offer a pretty deep discount. So once that user subscribes through the web, then you need a way to connect that user to the user inside of the app. Because the way we're going to build this is you don't need to create some complicated website of your own with user authentication. All of this is going to be able to be done without you needing to create your own website at all. It'll all be hosted by RevenueCat. So we're going to use a feature in RevenueCat billing called redemption links, and that will enable that. And we'll walk through how all this works. So this is kind of the overall flow that we're going to build in this tutorial. To look at kind of architecturally how we're going to build this, it's going to look something like this. So the mobile app is already something that exists, and it's already using the RevenueCat SDK. And that SDK communicates with the RevenueCat backend to enable features like experiments and all sorts of other things. But one of the features that's really important here is a feature called webhooks. And this enables us to send subscription events out to external services. In this case, we want to send it out to something that can send your users email. In this tutorial, I'm going to use Zapier because it's really easy to demo, but there's a lot of more robust marketing tools that you can use. Some of which we have native integrations directly for, like OneSignal, for example. So you don't even have to do the webhooks. Although honestly, the webhooks are pretty simple. But pretty much all these services can ingest a webhook, and you can use that as a trigger for when you want to send the email. So Zapier will then construct an email that will say, hey, we're sad to see you go. Here's a link for a discount. What is that link going to send you to? It's going to send you to a RevenueCat feature called Web Paywall Links. And this is a website paywall that we host, and we'll configure it inside of RevenueCat. And that will allow them to subscribe to your app, and RevenueCat will handle all of the billing. We'll send invoices to those customers through email. We have a customer subscription management portal that will be linked in all of their emails so that they can go in there and they can change their credit card information or cancel their subscription or whatever. So we'll handle all that for you. And so this is where the user will will actually subscribe to your discounted plan. And then we'll use a feature called redemption links to link that user into the same user on the app. And that way they'll then inside of their app, they'll have all their features unlocked as they're expecting to. So this is kind of the overall structure of what we're going to build. And there's almost no code at all that we're going to have to create. There's a tiny bit we'll have to do inside of the app, but we're never even going to create, I'm not going to write a line of HTML. I'm not going to write a line of JavaScript. All this you'll be able to do for the most part completely inside of our RevenueCat dashboard with a little bit of extra configuration here and there. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Okay, let's start by showing you the app that we're going to add this win-back campaign to. So here I have Xcode open. I'm going to go ahead and run it. And you'll notice I'm running this on a real device. I'm not running this in the simulator. And that's because we need to use the sandbox environment instead of using a StoreKit config file, for example. And the reason for that is we're setting up emails that need to trigger off of events. And those events are coming from RevenueCat's backend service, but RevenueCat is getting those events from App Store Connect. And so we need to actually be using the external services instead of everything being local on device or on my development environment, the way that a StoreKit config file is. So I'm running this on a real device, and then I'm using QuickTime, you can see right here, to show you what's on my screen on my device that's sitting here right in front of me. Okay, so we just ran it. The first thing you see is a little onboarding. And the important part of onboarding is that it does capture email. And email is something that you're going to need because obviously if you're going to send an email to your user, you need to have your email. In this case, we are simulating a login with this email. I'm not using a real authentication service, but it's using the RevenueCat login. So it'll be that RevenueCat ID. But theoretically, if you're capturing user email in some other way, that is all you really need to do. The web billing redemption link feature that we have enables you to link up your accounts without even having a dedicated login system. But obviously you can do it with a login system as well. So I'm going to log in with a kind of demo account, or I'm going to log in with this email plus, let's just say, win back demo 1 at RevenueCat.com. Okay, hopefully I spelled all that right. And then we have some questions in here. This is not relevant to this tutorial. Cool. All right. And then I hit next. And then you're going to see a paywall screen. I'm just going to go ahead and dismiss that for now. And then this is the app. You see everything's locked. You can see there's an upgrade to Pro thing up here. If I hit that, I'll get the paywall to pop up. So this is the app that we're going to add all of our stuff to. But to set up our win-back campaign, most of our work isn't going to happen here. There's a tiny bit of work we're going to have to do for the redemption link. So we'll be back in here. But for the most part, almost everything is going to exist in our RevenueCat dashboard. And it's going to be configuration to just connect all these services together to have it send an email whenever a user cancels their subscription. Cool. Okay, let's jump into the RevenueCat dashboard and look at how the project is set up there. So this is a RevenueCat dashboard. It's mixing all of my projects together. But the first step in order to set up web billing is you need to connect your Stripe account to your RevenueCat account. And the important bit here is that your Stripe account is connected at an account level, not at a project level, which means that the owner of your project is the one that needs to connect their Stripe account to that. Once it's connected, anybody can configure anything once you're in there, but the actual Stripe account needs to be connected to your RevenueCat account, not at the project level. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to go over to account here. And if I scroll down, you'll see this section that says connected Stripe accounts. This is where we're going to set up the Stripe account. So I've already created a Stripe account. I've done almost no customization or anything to it. So all you need to do is create a Stripe account, but keep that in mind. You will need a Stripe account in order to set up web billing. And all Stripe is doing is managing the transaction stuff itself. So if I hit launch RevenueCat app here, it's going to open the Stripe app marketplace. You'll notice that I'm already logged in. So if you're not logged in, you'll need to log into your Stripe account here. But this is the Stripe app marketplace, and we're on the RevenueCat page. So all you really have to do here is hit install app. And this will show the permissions that you're going to grant the RevenueCat app, which I'm just going to leave as all the defaults. And we're okay doing this in test mode for this tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and install app in test mode. Cool. And then hit continue. All right, so I'm in the Stripe dashboard, and over here on the right is the little RevenueCat sidebar. I can sign in here, and you'll get a little bit of, here, let's go ahead and link the Stripe account. That'll take me back to the Stripe dashboard. And now you'll see this RevenueCat app up here. And if you click on that, it'll open the sidebar. And this isn't going to be super interesting right now because we don't have any data, but this will show you RevenueCat information inside of your Stripe dashboard, which is pretty cool. I can go ahead and click this to just take me back to the Stripe, or to the RevenueCat dashboard. Let's close those. All right, so now I'm back in the RevenueCat dashboard, and if I go to account, I should now see that I have my Stripe account connected to my RevenueCat account. Cool. That's step one. All right, now let's go into my PAW Plus project and look at how that's structured. So if we go to project, you can see I have a whole bunch of projects in here. Let's go to PAW Plus. And these are the apps that are set up. So I have a iOS app, which is my main app. That's what I was showing you earlier. And that has all the products and everything that you saw there. So if I go down to products, for example, you'll see that the iOS app has these 3 products. That's what we were seeing in our paywall earlier. And also our paywall itself is managed in here. If I go into paywalls, you'll see this PAW Plus Dark. This is the paywall I was doing, and it had those 3 products set up in there. So that's the iOS app. But there's also these 2 other apps in here. These are actually other demos that I've created, so you can kind of ignore these. But essentially, this red RC logo represents a web billing app, which is what we're going to actually create. So if I go back to the main project page, so right now we just have the one iOS app. And remember, what we're ultimately trying to build here is this kind of flow. So right now we have our one iOS app, but we need to create the paywall that somebody's going to see whenever they get their email, and that's going to come through a web billing app, and web paywall links is a feature of that. So let's go back over here and let's go ahead and hit add on apps. And these are all the different types of apps that you can add into a project. We're going to add a new web billing project. Cool. Okay, so this is the name of the project. We'll go ahead and leave it like that. This is just what shows up inside of the dashboard. And then the next thing we need to choose is our Stripe account. So this will show all the different accounts that all the different Stripe accounts that your RevenueCat account has linked. And so this right here is the one that we just linked up to our account. So let's pick that. We need to pick the default currency. Let's stick with USD for now, but you can see there's quite a few options in there. And then this is the app information that will be shown on like invoices and a couple different places like that. So let's call this just PAW Plus, and our support email will be support. Actually, no, let's just use mine just in case we hit a button. I don't want one of our real RevenueCat support people to get this. So charlie.chapman@revenuecat.com. So all my support emails will go there. And then we need to put our App Store URL. This is the link that we're going to send people to after they make a purchase to say, hey, you can download the app. Here's where you download it. Since this isn't actually a published app in the store, I'm just going to put a fake one in here. And I like to do google.com and then put a query in here that represents, put a query in here that represents what the link is, so I know it's the correct one. So I'm just going to call this App Store URL. And that way, like, you can just see if I go to this link, it'll take me to Google. It'll take me to Google and it'll put that in the search box. So it's just kind of a handy little, hack to see that your URL is the one you're expecting. And because I didn't : // There we go. Okay. And then I'm not going to set up a Google Play Store URL, but you can have both, or you can just have one. Either's fine. All right. And then save. Okay. So now we have a web billing project. You can see it shows right here. And this is where we're going to set up all of our web billing settings, basically. So in this page right here, there's quite a few settings in here. So app information is mostly the same stuff that we just set up. One difference is you can add an app icon, which is definitely a good idea to do for making your invoices and everything look a little better. I have one for my app right here. So I'm just going to drop that in. Yep. Cool. So that's the app icon that we're going to see anywhere where we render an icon to make it look a little bit nicer. And then redemption links is something we're going to come back to here in a little bit. So let's just leave that. And then the API key and the sandbox API key are if you're using the JavaScript API, but we're not going to even need to do that for this tutorial. So we don't even need to mess with that. So let's go ahead, or that saves by default. Cool. And then the next thing, we can just kind of walk through these. So now we can look at the appearance. So this is the sort of styles that are going to show on our different pages, so that it can we can make it match the color scheme of our app, for example. So I'm going to open the editor, and this will let me just tweak this a little bit. So by default, there's no customization. There's kind of these different themes you can choose from. But ultimately, I'm just going to pick something custom. So we want our background to be, pretty dark. And this only applies to the customer portal and the web paywall link pages. So keep that in mind. The product info background, we also want to be, let's make that one black. And then the form background, we'll make, dark, but not quite as dark. Yeah, something like that. Cool. And then the primary button, let's make it like a reddish color, just again, so everything looks a little different than what we saw before. And accent can also be kind of a reddish color, something like that. Okay, error is fine to be totally red. And then you can change the button shapes. So let's make ours, let's do pill again, more just so that it's different than anything else. Cool. And then you can choose to have the product description shown in checkout. So that's going to be the thing underneath product here. So if I check that on, this is a demo product, that kind of thing. I'm just going to leave mine off because I'd rather it be a little more simple. Cool. Okay. So this is kind of the preview of what this is going to look like. I didn't spend a lot of time with this, so expect this to not look the prettiest, but you get the idea. Let's go ahead and save that. Cool. And go back out into our main settings here. Okay, so we have our web billing app created. Now we need to configure the products that users can buy inside of our app. In our case, remember, we want this to be a discount. Actually, this flow maybe is a little more clear. So we're talking about this stage right here. We want the user to receive an email, which we'll set up the email part later. But that email is going to include a link to this web billing, web paywall link. And the product that we want them to have access to is a discounted version of our subscription. So if we go back to products, so like we saw earlier, here's our iOS products. There was 3, and you can see our monthly product. And I have kind of a naming convention I use. So this is paywall plus the price of this product is $2.99, and then it's scheduled, or it's a monthly plan. So right now our monthly plan by default is $2.99. What I want to offer users is another monthly plan because they just canceled. So they're probably not going to want to sign up for a whole year, but I'm going to give them 50% off. And part of why I can give them 50% off is because it'll be running through web billing, which means there's no app store fees. So that 30% or 15% if you're a small business, that's not going to apply here. There are some Stripe fees, but it's quite a bit lower. So I want to do 50% off of monthly, which means I want it to be about $1.50 or $1.49. So let's scroll down to our web billing product, our web billing app, which is this one right here, and let's add a new product. So using that same convention, like I was just showing you earlier, I'm going to say paw plus underscore, and we're going to make this one $1.49. And then it's also going to be a monthly plan. And we'll call this, this is the customer facing product. So we're going to call this 50% off monthly. And then the description will be monthly access to paw plus content. And the display name here, this is what you're going to see inside of the RevenueCat dashboard. So this is more for you internally. So we're going to call this, we'll call this the win back monthly. Probably want to give it more descriptive names if you have a bunch of these, but you get the idea. All right. And then this product is going to be an auto-renewing subscription. This isn't a one-off or a consumable. The duration is going to be monthly, but you can see you have lots of options here. And then we could trial, but because maybe that does make sense actually. Like here's another 6 months for free, and then it'll renew at a discount. But for now, we're just going to leave this at just that 50% discount, and it's going to charge right away. And then this grace period, this has to do with if you run into billing issues. So if the user's credit card expires, for example, we'll send them emails explaining to them that there's a billing issue. And this has to do with how long you want to keep letting them have access to your product while that billing issue is going on. By default, we have it at 6 days, which is probably a pretty good amount. But if your app has like really high usage costs, and if somebody stops paying, you want to cut them off right away, you can change that to none. You could also make it longer if you wanted to. And then we need to set the price. So like I said, I want this to be $149, and that's in USD. And then let's create that product. Cool. So now we have a product, and just like products on iOS and Android, you need to tell RevenueCat what that product is supposed to unlock. So we already have an entitlement that our iOS app uses, and we call that Pro. And so if you subscribe inside of the iOS app, it unlocks the Pro entitlement. And that's what our code in the app is going to use to say, do they have access to streaming or whatever? So we need to create that same entitlement access here. So if we go into entitlements, go into Pro, and then all we have to do is say attach. And there is our product that isn't already attached, our win back monthly. So let's go ahead and attach that. Cool. So now, whenever somebody subscribes to the win-back monthly product that we just created, it's going to unlock this entitlement. No matter what app they're using, as long as it's the same user, they'll have access to this entitlement. That's kind of the glue that connects all of these pieces together. So now we have a product that's set up where users can purchase it. We have a web billing project or app, which will give them a paywall to unlock that project. But we need to define what that paywall actually is. And that is defined throughout RevenueCat using an object called offerings. And an offering is just describing what products a user should be shown to have as their option to make a purchase. So we're going to go into offerings. And you can see these are the offerings that I already have. These are used throughout my iOS app. The standard iOS offering is the one that's currently the default for the iOS app. And you can see it has those 3 iOS products in there. But we want to create a new one that's just for our web billing app that we just created. So I'm going to say new, and let's call this our win back. Actually, let's say web win back offering. And again, this is what's shown inside of the RevenueCat dashboard. This isn't shown to customers. So we'll just call this the win back offering. And let's add our package. And a package is just the name for a collection of products that can span multiple apps. In our case, we only care about that new web billing product that we created because this offering isn't going to be used by iOS. So we're going to call this the monthly. Actually, this is monthly. There we go. The description is monthly access. And then we want to connect our new web billing project. That product is what's going to be connected to this offering. And that's the only one that we really need. So let's go ahead and hit save. Cool. So now we have an offering, and that offering has a single product in it, which is the WinBack monthly. And this is what we want to show our users. Now, on iOS or Android, you would set this as the default offering, or you would manually inside of the iOS or Android SDK, you would request this specific offering, and that's how you show it to your user. But in our case, what we want is we just want a URL that points directly to this offering, so we can show a web paywall to give users access to this product. And the way we're going to do that is through a feature called Web Paywall Links, which you can set up right here in this tab. So let's click on that. Inside of this Web Paywall Link page, you can see there are none created by default. So to create a new Web Paywall Link, we need to click this Create a Web Paywall Link for this offering button. And that will take us to the Web Paywall Link configuration. So first, we need to select the app that it's part of. And in our case, that's going to be our new web billing app that we just created. And then we have a bunch of configuration options for how this is going to display to the user. What is this website actually going to look like? So the header, we can put something like, please don't go. You should probably have copy editors who are better at this than me. And then here's a 50% discount of our monthly plan to keep access to PAW Plus features or content. Cool. And then a link to your terms and conditions. I'm just going to put our RevenueCat terms and conditions in here. Obviously, you should put your own. And then what happens after somebody successfully makes a purchase? So you can either show the default success page, which is the one that we host, so you don't have to create a website or anything. But you can also redirect your users to your own success page, having whatever it is that you want in there. In our case, the whole point of this is we don't want to have to build a website, so let's use the default success page. And let's just keep this simple. Purchase successful. And yeah, let's just use this. Download the app to get access to your PAW Plus content. All right. And then this determines whether or not it shows the instructions for what the user should do next, which is going to be download the app. And in our case, we want it to have the redemption link instructions, which tells them how they can link that purchase to their account that's in their app. So we definitely want that turned on. And once again, I'm going to use a fake link because we don't actually have this in the store. Google.com, Q, App Store link. Okay. And then the last decision you have to make is what happens if the customer already has an entitlement to your app. So in our case, what if somebody's already subscribed inside of the app and then they go to this link? What should happen? You have the choice. You can either allow them to make a purchase, or you can say, hey, you already have a purchase, just show the success page. And that's what I'm going to do here because we don't have multiple tiers or anything. So there's no reason for them to make another purchase if they already have access. So that's what I'm going to do there. Cool. All right, let's go up to the top and hit save. Sweet. So now we have a web paywall link. And the way web paywall links work is you have a URL. Here's a production URL. And then here's a sandbox version, which is what we're going to use here. So we can do fake purchases. And if I were to just try and go to this URL directly, I'm going to get 404. And that's because by default, web paywall links require you to pass in the user ID for that user so that we can successfully link this purchase to the correct user. So if you have your own website that has authentication, you can include the username on this link. Also, if you have advanced email structuring where you have the the user's user ID, you could include it on a link that you email out to them as well. And the way that works is you take that same URL we just copied and you attach the user ID. So if I say user ID, 12345 and hit enter, now we're going to see our paywall, which looks very weird on a very big screen, but normally people are going to be on a mobile device. It's going to look something like that. And so this right here is what the paywall is going to look like. But this is associated with that specific user ID 12345. So if I make a purchase, let's just actually do that so you can see what this looks like. If I make a purchase and I link it to Charlie.Chapman plus user ID 12345, I'm just doing that so it's easier for me to connect these. There's no magic sauce in that string, at RevenueCat.com. And then whenever you're in the sandbox environment, you can use Stripe's fake credit card, which is just all 42424242. So I'm just going to do that. I might have to blur out if 1Password tries to put my real credit card info up here. 42424242424242. And then expiration date, it doesn't matter. 01. Well, it does need to be in the future. So let's say 28, 424. Okay, cool. All right. So now let's make the fake purchase. No, I don't want to save that. All right. Payment complete. Your subscription is now active. And if I hit continue, it's going to take us to that success page that we just defined. Now there's no redemption link directions here, and that's because we haven't configured the redemption link yet. That's what I'm going to get to here. This is using the web paywall link if you have your own login system where you can pass the user ID in. So if I go to the RevenueCat dashboard now, and let's make this a little bigger, and I go to the dashboard, we should see, here's that user right there. And their username or user ID is going to be that user ID 12345. And so if I were to log into the app, or I already was logged into the app with that user ID, all my content would now be unlocked. And that's one way to set this up. We're going to do it in a way with the redemption links where you don't have to pass a user ID in, which means you can share the same URL to everybody. So let's look at how you set that up. So if we go back to our project and we go back into our web billing app that we just created, and we scroll down, inside of settings, there's a section called redemption links. And this is where we're going to set this up. So by default, it's disabled. And the reason for that is there's a little bit of work we're going to have to do on our app itself to handle this redemption link. And so for now, we're going to enable this only for Sandbox because we don't want people to actually be making purchases in this example app that I'm making right now. So we're going to enable this for the Sandbox. And then you'll have this custom URL scheme down here. And the way that redemption links work is you go through the same flow like I just showed in our web paywall link. You make a purchase and you put your email address in there. And at that stage, RevenueCat now has created a anonymous user, or not anonymous, has created a user with a purchase using that email address. And we have all that information. What we don't know, though, is that user is the same user inside of the app. So we need some way to link those two together because they might not be using that same email address inside of their app, right? And so that's where redemption links come in. So once you make your purchase, you'll get a special link, or the user will get a special link sent to their email, and they'll also see it on the success page. And if they click on that link on their device, it will deep link into your app. And as long as your app has the latest version of our SDK, and you've set up this custom URL scheme, which I'm going to show you how to do here in a second, then when they tap that link, it's going to open up your app, tell the RevenueCat SDK, hey, this person is the same person as the user that we created that bought this product. And it's going to connect those two together, and then it'll unlock that entitlement for that user. So to figure out how to set this up, you can click this Learn More right here. And this is going to guide you through the whole process of setting up your redemption link. But I'm just going to do it for you right here because I've done this before. So we need to copy this URL scheme and go back over into Xcode. Close that. And then inside of Xcode, we need to go to your project, go to your target, and then down at the bottom, there's a section called URL types. And inside of here, we need to add a new URL type that our app can handle. You can call this whatever you want. I'm just going to call it RC redemption link. I don't think that actually matters for anything. And then this URL scheme is where we're actually going to put that scheme that we just defined. Okay, that's all we have to do there. So now our app has told the system that we will handle that deep link. And then there's a tiny bit of code we need to add in order to actually handle that deep link and send that information to the RevenueCat SDK to create that link up. And so for that, we're going to go back over to the dashboard and click this Learn More button. And if you scroll down, you'll see the instructions on how to set this up. This one right here is Android. Or here we go. So this is what we need to set up inside of our code to handle that deep link and pass that information into RevenueCat. So somewhere in your app, you can do this at the very top level of your app. You need to add this on web purchase redemption attempt view modifier, and then handle all these different cases. So I'm going to do that at the content view level. So right at the top here, and I'm just going to literally paste that in. And obviously this stuff is kind of placeholder-y. So most of these, you should handle these by, logging errors or something. I'm just going to print error. And apologies if you're listening to the thunder. Hopefully this just makes for a soothing background. And hopefully I don't lose power and everything goes dark. But, sometimes you just got to push through the weather. Anyway, so we're going to log this error. Or we're just going to print all of these here. In this case, it's going to be invalid token. And I should speed this up so you don't have to watch me type slowly. This once. And okay, so those are all the error handling. And then on the success, we have this customer info object that's sent back to us. And this is the actual, the new customer info object that will contain the entitlements that our app can then use to unlock our content. So in my case, I already have this app state. And inside of my app state, this should obviously be more complicated in your more complicated app, but I just have this single object kind of sitting at the top. Whenever I initialize RevenueCat and load the customer info, I always call this update customer info object, which takes in a customer info object. And then it looks at the entitlements, looks for pro. If it's true, or if it's currently active, it sets this object, which is still using observable object. But updating that is pro Boolean will then push those updates out to the rest of the apps to unlock or lock all of my content. So what I'm saying is all I need to do is call update customer info with that new customer info object, and the rest of the app should update on its own. So in here, all I have to do is say app state dot update customer info, and I need to say let. I'm going to have to do that here as well, and here. Hopefully everything's happy. Will it build? Oh, those already have let. Okay. Now will it build? What did I do wrong? Oh, I'm missing I must have not fully copied that. There we go. Now if I build, there we go. Build succeeded. Cool. Okay. This is the entirety of the code that we have to actually update to make this work, is how it should be. So let's actually check to see if this works before we get to the email section of this tutorial. So now if we go back into the dashboard, we've set this up, we've enabled it. Okay. So we need to save. Cool. All right. So now that's enabled. So now if we go to our web paywall link and we go to this win back offering and go to the sandbox and copy it, Cool. Now, if we go directly to this without the user ID, we should see our paywall. Sweet. Actually, I don't know why. There should be an app icon up there. It should have been there earlier too. Let's debug that real quick. If I go back to the project and go to app information, it is not there. I must have forgotten to save at some point. So let's drop that back in. And let's make this one a little different just to make sure. Okay. Hit save. If I refresh this page. Okay, cool. All right, so now if we go, actually, we should be able to just use that same URL. Refresh it. All right, cool. There's the little icon. And again, this is normally going to be seen on mobile where it looks a little bit more natural. Ooh, that was some big lightning. All right, so now I have a paywall. I've not told web paywall links who the user is yet. That will be, there's the thunder. That will be determined later. So let's walk through this, or let's make a purchase and see if the unlock actually works. Okay, so let's hit continue. And this time we'll use a slightly new email address just to make them more obviously different. So this will be plus winback 02 at RevenueCat.com. And just like before, we're going to use our fake credit card, 27, so it's not expired, 424. Cool. Okay, payment complete. All right, cool. So now we have our purchase successful screen. So this is just like before, it shows the step for, downloading the app from the store, but now we have this extra redeem your purchase button. Since we're on the desktop, it's going to show this QR code that we can scan on our phone, which will then open it in the app. And then we'll also get an email that'll look very similar to this. Let's see if I've gotten it already. Looks like I did. Okay, cool. Let me pull that over here so you can see what it looks like. So this is the email, winback02. You can see, and it looks very similar. It has the download page and the redeem now button, as well as the price that we paid. So the redeem now button, now this one's a link. And so if you open this directly from your phone, it should deep link into the app, which should be a lot easier to do. So if I either open from the phone or scan it, let's try scanning it because that's kind of fun. So if I switch to my camera here and scan it, you'll see it says no usable data found. And we're going to get the same problem. Actually, let me open that so you can see it. There you go. So that QR code says no usable data found right there. And that's because I haven't rerun in Xcode. So this is the version before we added our ability to handle the deep link. So if I rerun the app in Xcode and push it to my phone, okay, we have the app there. Now I don't need to go through any of this. Now it's registered with the system that it can handle that deep link. So if we go back to the QR code and I open my camera again, now it says open in Paw Plus, which I keep forgetting to open that. There you go. So you can see right there, it says open in Paw Plus. And if I tap on that, it should go into my app. Now, the onboarding screen is open right now, so you didn't see, but it should, and you can see now everything is now unlocked, whereas before it was locked. If we go into settings, you'll see it says thank you for subscribing, but we should be subscribed not through an in-app purchase, but through web billing. And if I click on that manage subscription button to open the customer center, you'll see I don't have the ability to manage the subscription through the iOS settings. It specifically specifies that I've made the purchase on the web. And if I click this manage subscription button, that will open up a website that lets me manage my subscription right here. So you can see I have my subscription here. I could click into it and scroll down and I could hit cancel subscription. And also I could edit my credit card information. So this worked. And I think I showed you already. but you can see that all the content is now unlocked. So let's go ahead and let's cancel that subscription just so I don't keep getting emails about it. Yes, I do. Cool. All right. And I'll still have access for a while until the monthly, period ends, just like what we were dealing with before. Cool. So what we've done so far is we've gotten, if we go back to our diagram here, so we have our mobile app, and our mobile app talks to the RevenueCat backend. In our RevenueCat backend, we've configured a web paywall link using web billing so that users can receive a link, they can go to it, they can make a purchase of our discounted product, and that link will, and that paywall will include a redemption link once they finish, which will sync that subscription over to their user inside of their app. So all of this is done. So now all we need to do is send the users those emails in some way. There's a lot of different use cases for this. You could use this as part of a social marketing campaign where you can just send this email out or send this link out to lots of people. There's a lot of different lifecycle campaigns you could potentially do for people. Like if you wanted to try to convert more of your free users over to paid users, maybe you look at people who've been using your app for over a year on the free tier. Maybe you try to get them to move up into the paid tier by giving them some sort of discount, and you could create your own email campaign based on that. The way we're going to do that is we want to set up a win-back campaign so that if somebody cancels at the point that their subscription expires, we want to then send them this email that includes the link that we just set up so that they can subscribe for a discount. And the tool we're going to use for that is Zapier. And the way that we're going to tell Zapier when it should send an email is using RevenueCat's webhooks. So that's where we're going to start. So let's go back into the RevenueCat dashboard. And now we need to go down to our integrations section. And you can see I don't have any set up right now. So I'm going to go to add integration. What we're going to set up is a webhook because that's kind of the most universal tool for sending out these events to different people. If you're using a dedicated marketing tool, such as, for example, OneSignal, like we have a native integration for that. That's a little bit easier to hook up. There's quite a few of those over here. But no matter what, webhooks, generally speaking, are pretty universally accepted. And that's what we're going to use for Zapier. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to create a new webhook. And we're going to call this Zapier Winback email. And then we need to put the actual URL that RevenueCat needs to hit whenever this event happens. And for that, we need to actually set up a Zapier automation. They call them Zaps. And that's going to tell us what this URL should be. So we're going to go over to Zapier. And I already have a Zapier account, so I'm going to log in. And then I want to create a new Zap, which again is just kind of the automation workflow. So I'm going to click this Zap button. And we could ask AI to build this for us, but what we're going to make is actually really straightforward. So I'm just going to start with the trigger. So this is the thing that actually causes this automation to run. And in our case, we want that to be a webhook. So right here, we're going to click on webhooks. And we want it to trigger whenever it catches a hook. So that is that. Then we hit continue. You could have it pick off child keys for when it should actually trigger. So if you wanted RevenueCat to send every single event it ever gets over to Zapier, and then Zapier is the one that limits which event, in our case, a subscription expired event, actually fires it, you could like pick off a child key to do some filtering here. But we're just going to let RevenueCat handle that, so we don't need to put anything here. And there we go. So there's our URL. Let's go ahead and copy that and take that over back to RevenueCat and paste that in the webhook URL. We don't need to worry about the authorization header. We can go ahead and send this for both production and sandbox, although we're only working in the sandbox, so that's the only place this will happen. And then we can filter which events should fire. So I only want this to send whenever our iOS app has a cancellation. I don't want this to send, for example, whenever our web billing app has a subscription expired. Maybe you do want that, but in our case, I just want it to be only for the iOS app. So I'm going to click that one. And then I also don't want it to send all events. I only want it to send subscription expiration events. So I'm only going to include that. All right. And let's add the webhook. So there you go. That's all you need to do on the RevenueCat side. That should be completely good to go now. So now we can go back over to Zapier. Oh, actually, let's go back over here. One thing you can do just to make sure this is wired up correctly is if you scroll down to the bottom, you can send a test event. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that and hit send. Boom. So this is the object it's sent over. Let's look for something identifiable in here. Mr. Mistopheles or Tuxedo at RevenueCat.com. Both of those are pretty unique, I think. So then we can go over to Zapier and we can hit test. And now it found records. This first one, I think, is just like a test one. Yeah, it's like always in there. It's empty. The second one has the event that we just sent over. And we should be able to see, yeah, Tuxedo at RevenueCat.com. So this is the one that RevenueCat's webhook just sent over. Perfect. So now we have a webhook that's going to fire this automation. Now let's make it do something. So that's where this action comes in. So I'm going to click here and go to Gmail. And so in this case, I'm just going to have it send from my personal Gmail address. You probably have like a company address or something that you actually want this to be sent from. But in my case, I'm just going to set my own. So I already have, let's see. So for the event, I want it to send an email. And then the account I want it to send from, like I said, is my account, which is already set up in here. Perfect. Okay. And hit continue. And now we need to set up the email. So the big important part is who is it coming from? And that is where you need to be getting it from the RevenueCat event, the actual email address you're supposed to send this to. So I mentioned at the beginning that in my code, I was already setting the email on my user. It's both the login information, but I'm also setting a customer attribute called email. And let me show you what that looks like in the iOS code anyway. So if we go to my onboarding view here, and then go into this questions view, which is where I was asking all those questions. You can see whenever I hit the next button, it's going to make a couple calls here. So the first one is this. So I'm using that email address as the user ID to simulate a login. Traditionally, you wouldn't just throw text that somebody gave you in here. You would actually have a login system, and then you would call this login function on the RevenueCat SDK. But I'm just logging in as that email user. But I'm also setting the email on the customer attributes, and that's using this method right here. You can also see those questions that I'm asking. I'm sending, those are just like manual attributes, but we have this special set email function that you can use to make sure that it gets set in the kind of the standard way that people typically add emails to their customer attributes. So this is where we want to grab the email address, because theoretically you could change your login system at some point so that your user ID isn't an email. So it's better to just use the explicit email address. So because I'm calling this after login, you will see that customer's email that they put in as a customer email attribute. And to test that, let's just do another login, another run of this app with the onboarding so that you can see that come through. So I'm just going to close this completely, reopen it, and I have my onboarding set to just always run and restart the world for the sake of this. And let's create a new user. We're going to do Charlie Chapman plus web billing. Let's do 04 at, nope, not Gmail, RevenueCat.com. All right, does that all look correct? Nope, I spelled my own name wrong. Charlie.Chapman plus web billing 4. Okay, cool. And then, again, these don't matter for the sake of this demo. Hit next. I'm not going to subscribe for now, so we're going to close that. Everything's locked. And then if we go back to the RevenueCat dashboard here and just go up to the overview page, so you can see that's demo 1. I called it a different name earlier. Let's see. All right, let's go into the customer tab and just actually search for this. So Charlie.Chapman plus web billing 04 at RevenueCat.com. There we go. So there's my user, right? And then in the customer attributes, there's a email here, and that is going to be the exact same email, but this is the attribute value that we actually are going to be plucking off for that user. So if we go back to Zapier, what's nice about Zapier is it'll do some auto completion for you. And what's nice about that test webhook that we sent, if we go look at that, let's see, if we go back to our project and go to integrations, go to webhooks, go to that Zapier email and send another one of these, you'll see it puts a fake email in that $email subscriber attribute. So it's in the standard place. And so that was the test webhook we sent, which means Zapier will autocomplete that for us. So if I go into this to section and I hit / and I just typed email, you'll see this event subscriber attributes email value. That is the value that we want. And we'll even see a confirmation in light gray. It'll show us like the last event that it got, what that email was, and that's tuxedo@revenuecat.com. So we know that that's the correct email we want, which is pretty handy. For the rest of this, it's pretty straightforward. So we're sending to the right person. The from address, I'm just going to put that it's coming from me. You could put like no reply or whatever. The name will be Charlie Tester, something like that. Reply to can be no reply at RevenueCat.com. And the subject can be, please don't go. And then the body is where we put, the actual email that they'll see. You could just say, before you go, here's a 50% discount on our monthly plan. Don't lose your PAW Plus access. I don't know. You want something more interesting than that. And then we need to include the link, our web paywall link in here that we configured earlier. So if we go back to the RevenueCat dashboard and we go to our web billing project and go to web paywall links, and then here's our win-back offering. And because we're still testing, let's grab the sandbox URL. And this right here, like if I go to it, this right here is where we want to be sending people to. So let's just spit that right in there. And that is all we should have to do. So let's hit continue. You could run a test, but it's going to send it to Tuxedo at RevenueCat because that's the last event it got. So let's just skip the test. We'll test it live and then hit publish. Okay, cool. So this is literally the entire automation. It's pretty straightforward. And I think we have everything wired up so that we should be good to go. We should be able to run through the entire scenario. Let's just walk through that one more time to confirm that that's what we want. So the user is going to start a subscription on the mobile app. They'll cancel it. At the point whenever their subscription expires, they should receive an email with a discount. That user then will subscribe to that discounted purchase through the web. And then they should get a redemption link that will link that purchase to their app to unlock all their content. So here we go. This is the scary part. Did we wire everything up correctly? And if we did, we should be able to go through all these steps and see it all work. So let's give it a shot. I already ran Xcode, so that has the most recent version of our app. So we should be able to just walk through the whole thing here. So I'm going to go to settings. We see upgrade to pro. If I go to manage subscription, there's no subscription found. So we should be in a good state here. Actually, no, let's start over from the beginning so that we can create a new user for this, just to really confirm everything. So All right, we're on the onboarding. Let's put in our last new user. We'll say Charlie.Chapman plus final test, because we know this will work the very first time, at RevenueCat.com. RevenueCat.com. Okay, cool. And next, we're going to go ahead and subscribe. So let's subscribe to monthly. Yep. All right. And now you see all of our content is unlocked. If we go in here, it says thank you for subscribing up at the top. And if we go to manage subscription, you'll see our subscription details here. All right, so we've gone through this step. Now let's cancel the subscription. So cancel subscription. We'll say it's too expensive. And cancel. Confirm. All right. Cool. Close that and close that. And everything is still unlocked because our subscription hasn't actually expired, which is why I haven't received an email yet. So now we're going to have to wait until our subscription expires, which should happen within 3 minutes. And then since it's the sandbox environment, you might find that there's a little bit of a delay before the subscription actually expires and the email actually comes through. It kind of just depends on when Apple sends out the notification that the subscription truly expired. So I'm going to wait. Through the magic of video editing, this should happen very quickly for you, though. Oh, okay. The email came through. You'll also notice that my my view automatically updated. I did bounce between apps, so it may have been on a foreground refresh, but my view updated and locked everything. And I also got the email. I didn't see it pop on my phone, unfortunately, so we lost that cool moment. So here's the email right here. So please don't go. It was sent to the correct username, and here's my text, and there's the link. I also should have it on my phone, so let me open that. That'll blur for a second. Okay, so there's the same thing on my phone. So let's actually go through the payment flow on my phone then instead of on the desktop, just because, I don't know, so you can see what that looks like too. So let's click on that. And again, remember, everything is locked now. If we go into here, you see it's asking me to upgrade. There's no subscription found. So we are in the state we want. So now we have, we've properly gotten to this point in the chain. Actually, no, to this point in the chain. So the user received an email, but we haven't made a purchase through the web yet. So let's do that. Let's tap on that. All right. So there's our paywall. I'm going to hit continue. And I'm going to use a different email just to show you that the link is not because we're using the same email. So this will be Charlie.Chapman plus final test 2 at RevenueCat.com. I feel like there was typos in there. Nope, that looks correct. Okay, cool. All right, and hit continue. And then the same deal. We're going to blur those out. 42424242. Oh, and that needs to be a valid expiration date. Actually, I guess, no, 42 probably isn't. We'll say 36. Sure. All right. And all right, cool. Payment now completed. Hit continue. All right. And now we've gotten our purchase successful. It's going to tell me to download the app. But again, we already have it downloaded. And then redeem purchase is here. I will also get an email with all this information in it like we saw before. So if I tap on this, it should open my app, which should then unlock everything. So let's see if that happens. Redeem purchase, open in Paw Plus, good sign. And boom, everything unlocked. Oh, it actually worked. Sweet. I love it whenever things work the first time. So you can see my subscription successfully linked to this user, even though they're different email addresses. If I go to settings, you can see it says, thank you for subscribing. And if I go to manage subscription, it calls out that I already have an active subscription from the web. And if I click on manage subscription, it'll take me to that web-based managed subscription page, just like we saw before. So there you go. We just went through all of the steps. We started a subscription on the mobile app, canceled. At the point it expired, we sent an email. The user subscribed through the web at a discount, which also means that it's going through the web, so we're not paying App Store commission fees. And then we successfully linked that subscription to the correct app using a redemption link. So there you go. This video is obviously taking longer than it would even take you to do it because I was talking through it as I went, but it's a really straightforward way to build a win-back campaign. Like I mentioned before, you can also use this exact same method to send links out to all of your free users who've been using it for a certain period of time to try and convert them over to a paid account at some sort of discount. There's a lot of different ways you can use this. So hopefully this was really helpful. Of course, as always, we have loads and loads of docs that explain in detail how all of this works that you can find over at RevenueCat.com.